Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Stacie Bass on the podcast. She's an NGA Bikini Pro qualified, I should say. She's an NPC Bikini National qualified. She's a mom of three, believe it or not. I know some of our guests, you look at me and you're like, there's no way. But she's also a physician, and she's coming to us from the great state of Texas. Most importantly, she's our current guest. Stacie, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired and what motivated you to get into shape and really make that health and fitness lifestyle change?
Okay, so I've basically always been into health and fitness in some form. When it started out. Well, let me just say, my parents have always like been into working out, doing their type of thing, jazzercise. My mom did, and
Yep.
my dad's always my dad's always done some kind of gym exercise. So it's just kind of I was raised with it. I was a competitive gymnast when I was like 10, 11, 12. So I guess, and you learn conditioning and you learn strength and all that stuff with the gymnastics. So, and then when I stopped doing that, I started going to the gym with my dad. So I've always been, and that's always been me. Now I have not always been into bodybuilding and weightlifting. That's just been in the last maybe 2.5 years. I had a running streak for a while. I did half marathons. I probably about 10 years of my life, I was focusing on running, doing half marathons. I've done 10 or 11 half marathons and one full marathon. So running was kind of my thing for a while. I would go to the gym. I would run on the treadmill for an hour. I would like do some bicep curls and maybe do some like squats with a little bar, and then I'd be done. So I was like focused on cardio and running. So that's kind of where my background was. And then about 2.5 years ago, I started lifting more weights. And it was like, as soon as I started doing that, I started seeing like changes in my body that I hadn't seen. And I was just like, it was literally like a month of lifting weights heavy. And I was just like, whoa, like this is, this is different. And I can actually like see changes in my body. Um, and so it just kind of took off from there. And I just talked to some friends who had done bodybuilding and done bikini competitions. And I was like, I kind of want to do that, but I really like food, and I don't know if I can be that dedicated and to like not, I like cake, I like sweet. How am I how am I gonna like not eat that ever? So, but anyways, I got a coach, and she was amazing, and we just kind of went from there. And it was like I just kind of like went into it like head first and took off from there. So my first competition was April of 2017. And that's kind of, and then I've just kind of been doing the bodybuilding thing since then. So,
And that's awesome, and that's such an inspiring story. And I always like to ask, because especially the people that I have on that either have like a swimming background or a gymnast background, how much of that background do you really think really helped out when you were getting started, building muscle and getting in shape? Because I mean, gymnasts, those body weight exercises that they do are just absolutely insane, and that really, for a lot of people, that builds such a foundation. Do you think that that really helped you out, sort of develop that muscle maturity early on?
yeah, I think it did. Like I look back and I've always like had some, muscle on me. I've never been like the like super, small, skinny, like type, like beanpole type of person. I've always had some decent muscle on me. And yeah, definitely, I think I attribute it to that background. I mean, I was young, I was 9, 10, 11, but I mean, it was, I look back at even my pictures from when I was that age and competing in gymnastics, and yeah, you can see some muscle on me even from then. So, and then I also think that just the also like the mindset of being fit, and so it just kind of like that started the foundation at that
Oh,
time.
100%. I mean, that's what I always love to say is that, people just don't realize how good it is. I mean, especially if you have that early years of, developing just something, how easy it can be later on in life. But one of the questions that I love to ask, because I mean, I always say if there's 100 people in the gym, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape, whether it comes down to their diet, their nutrition, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. So many little things add up to the overall package that people end up seeing. Was that a struggle for you when you were getting started to sort of realize what worked best for your body? Because I always say, if you were to walk up to someone and say like, oh my God, that body part of yours looks great, what did you do to make it look like that? What works best for them 99% of the time is not going to work as good for you.
That's absolutely true. And I mean, I think I learned a lot. Like I said, I didn't really know anything about weightlifting or bodybuilding or like developing certain musculature or anything. And I learned so much from my coach. Um, and and then that's how I guess that's how I got the foundation. And then I mean, it's a always a work in progress. And what I'm doing now is different than what I was doing, 2 years ago. It depends on your goals. When I was trying to do bikini, I was trying to like grow my glutes because that's important for bikini, but I was also, I was trying not to get my upper body too big, which actually was a struggle for me to like not get it too big because my upper body just likes to grow. So
We can see
it,
that. Yep.
so it's just kind of depends on what my goals were and are at the time. Um, but yeah, and I'm always reading stuff. I mean, I'm always on Instagram and following people that like they have similar goals as me and like what are they doing? And then I try to change things up a little bit, like, like you said, like sometimes some of my workouts are like higher reps with a moderate weight, and some of them I'll go real heavy with lower reps, and I try to change it up and just keep the muscle tension and
Yeah, I mean, well, like I always say, it's sort of like a work in progress where you're like a mad scientist, kind of like forming your concoction to figure out what works specifically best for you because everyone is so different. But I also, I mean, you brought it up already, but I love to talk about because everyone's genetics are different. You said that, your upper body developed really, really early, and it's one thing that really grows. But everyone has that one body part that develops really, really early, and then they have that one body part that just lags behind that they have to sort of train to overdrive. I mean, for me, my back, because I spent so many years in college, lifting packages into trucks for some of my jobs. So that really took off for me. But my lower body, I'm 6'3", so I mean my lower body is just shot, and I have that pitcher's body where you had to be like long and lean, and not a lot of muscle, just sort of just really lean. But what was the body part that you struggled with when you were starting out that you've really had to train to overdrive to get it to catch up?
probably my glutes for sure. Which it was like the most important thing for what I was trying to do, but it was also like the biggest struggle for me because I don't have like some people have the genetics that like their glutes are just like bam, you can put some muscle on and then there they are. But like for me, it definitely took a lot, and like I said, it's still a work in progress. Like I train them twice a week and I train them heavy, but and I there's been a huge progress since I started out. But yeah, it took I remember when I first started with my coach, and I would tell her, "Oh, I'm doing bikini. I have to have my glutes have to be bigger, and like, what do I need to do?" And she would like say, "Stacie, it takes time. Like, it's not gonna work, and you're not gonna grow glutes in like 3 months or 4 months. Like, it takes time, and heavy lifting and time." And and I would get so frustrated, and we all do this. We compare to other people on Instagram or whatever, and oh, her glutes are a lot bigger, and what is she doing differently? And I mean, it does take time. Like here I am 2.5 years later, and I've seen a lot of progress, but it takes time.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more, especially with the younger generation. I mean, which I am just slowly a part. I mean, I'm 24, but still, everyone wants everything now and they want it yesterday, where they're not willing to, put in the work because they just don't realize that. I mean, especially with weight loss, it's going to take so much time and so much dedication. I mean, you can't just go one night and then you're not going to look in the mirror and just be like, oh, I look so much better. It's like, no, you're not. You're gonna have to go, weeks upon weeks, months upon months. I mean, that's really hard for a lot of people. But one of the biggest myths and stereotypes that I love to bust on this show, because I mean, it's gotten so much better, though I should say, over Instagram in the last 5 years. But because I love to bust this, because it's still so prominent. There's so many women that still have that fear, where if you touch one weight, you're just gonna, hulk out and put on 50 pounds of muscle. And I always say to that, it's just one of those things where you just gotta shake your head and just say like, "Oh, come on!" Like it's like honestly, just do your research. But how did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, how do you like to respond to that? Because I bet you hear that all the time.
Right. I don't know if I ever had I don't think I ever had the fear of lifting weights or getting bulky. I mean, I don't know. You say people, you hear, I just want to tone. I don't want to get bulky. And like, that's probably the most common thing you hear from females who are either starting out or wanting to start out. But I don't think I ever had that real fear, but I do hear that a lot. And yeah, I mean, I try to explain to people that lifting weights is the best thing you can do to see improvements in your body composition. I try to tell people that the more muscle that you have, the higher your metabolism is, and you burn more calories at rest. And just overall, it's pretty much the best thing you can be doing. And then, yeah, I mean, you have to sometimes explain to people that you're not going to look like bodybuilder. I mean, here I am, like 2.5 years into it, and
Yeah.
I don't like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, like, you're just
Yeah.
not
Well,
into it. Like,
and that's what I always say too, because I always love to tell the story. When I was in college, getting bigger and stronger, one of my really good friends, she came up to me and she said, like, I see that you're making all these changes. I want to go to the gym with you, but I'm just afraid that I'm just going to get too bulky. And then I told her, I said, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse when we go out to clubs, when we go out to get something to eat, weighs more than 90% of the dumbbells in the gym. I mean, she might have had a dead body in that thing for all I know, because that thing weighed a ton. But
right.
yeah, and then that finally sort of convinced me. She's like, yeah, I'll give it a try. But the biggest thing that I think impacts women, especially so much more than it does the guys, and so much more positively, is the confidence boost that you get. Because
Absolutely.
some guys walk into the gym and they act like they own the place. Let's be honest. I mean, that's just how some guys are. But then for the women especially, and the confidence boost is one thing that you can take from the gym and adapt it to everything else in your life and really transfer it. How has that confidence boost really impacted your life? Because it's like I said before, it's one of those things where the rest of your life or every other aspect of your life, you can take that confidence boost and make it better. How has that impacted you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like, well, let me start by back before I started competing, but like when I said that I just first started lifting weights for like a month, and I was just like, whoa. I mean, like, and it just gave, like, I was just like, yeah, I saw those changes, and it totally gave me like an immediate confidence boost, because I mean, it does. You feel strong, you feel sexy as a female, you feel, um, and it's good to feel strong. Like, I feel good that like I am a strong person who can, like, lift things that need to be lifted and do things I need to do, and just mentally, not just physically. Um, it's a great feeling, and yeah, I mean, I feel like definitely it's helped me, be a better mom and a better, person, and just having that confidence and feeling good and looking good, but mostly, feeling good.
Oh, 100%. Just that, I mean, just even like with me personally, just like being able to talk to people that I might not have normally been able to talk to, just that confidence and that courage that you get. I mean, you can't really tell right now because I put on my winter weight. So when you're up in Minnesota and it gets really cold, you need to put on, about 10 to 15 pounds of
Right.
fat, just because, in order to survive up here, you gotta have a little bit. If I was super lean, like I am summer lean up here in the winter, I mean, that is not gonna work out nice. I mean, you're going to have a very rough winter. So,
Right.
but yeah, just that confidence boost that you get is just so, I mean, it's one of the biggest things, especially for the women, that I can say. But also, one of the things that I love to talk about, because the general public, I think, is so ill-informed, is that a lot of people don't realize that just to be able to go on a prep, you need to get into such great shape and you need to just work out so much and everything just has to be going so good for you. But then going on a prep, you are notching things up to an extreme level when it comes to your diet, your training. I mean, you got to eat the proper amount of food at the right amount of time. Most people don't realize that it's got to be all time too. You got to get all of your workouts in. I mean, it becomes so scientific. What was that adjustment like for you? I mean, did you struggle at all with that, going from, just being just a casual weightlifter or just someone that was really into it, to then all of a sudden going into a prep? Was that just a big adjustment for you, or was it something that you really took in stride?
Well, luckily, with the coach that I started with, we kind of went gradually. And she was real big, like you said, about like she wanted to like build up my calories, build up my metabolism basically, and put on some muscle on me, and then before we cut for the show. So I started working with her about 6 or 7 months before the actual competition, and it started with me just like tracking my macros, and like, and that's, I didn't really know anything. I didn't know what macros meant. Like, I knew nothing about any of that. So I had to learn all about that, and so I learned how to track my macros. She would give me macros to follow, and she would give me like kind of like a food list, and kind of let me make my own diet from that, which was, some people don't like that. I personally like that and need that. I don't like too much restriction, and especially when I was still like 6 or 7 months out. I mean, I didn't need to be too strict at that point, but we needed to get some calories in me, and we needed to build some muscle. So we kind of started slowly, and we started with building and like increasing my calories, but also just me learning the process of tracking macros and how to, weigh my food and adjust and all that stuff. So I had a lot to learn, and I learned it pretty quickly. And then after we increased my calories probably by about 2 or 300. Um, that's the highest we got, and then it was kind of time to start to cut, so we would start backing them off. So it was kind of like a gradual thing for me and a learning process as well at the same time. And I don't remember it being that hard. Like, I thought it was going to be hard, but it really wasn't that hard. And I think I attribute that to her letting me be flexible with my diet for a while, and kind of, we know we obviously focus on like quality nutrients, and it wasn't like I was eating like all my carbs were Oreos. But but she let me be flexible with what I was choosing, and I think that helped that it wasn't like impossible. It was not that bad.
Well, yeah, and I always say get a coach too, that especially if you're thinking about competing, because that can be one of the biggest things that you can get. I mean, it's just so important, I think, for a lot of people out there to just realize that. But I always say if you were to poll the general public, I mean, you would get such a small singular percentage of people that would be willing to go up on stage basically in a bikini and pose in front of a lot of people. I mean, it takes so much courage and determination. Was that something that you really had to build up the courage for and build up, the drive to go up on stage? Or did it become like a lot of our competitors that we have on here that just say like it just got to a point where I just want to step on stage and show it off? What was that process like for you? Was it a struggle at all for you?
It wasn't the only thing that was a struggle for me. I really stressed over the posing, and like it was so not natural for me. Some people are, that's natural for them, but it was not natural for me. So the only thing I stressed about was like getting my posing right, and it that took a lot of work for me, and I still don't think I actually did it really that good. But um, but as far as like my body and my confidence, it was just the changes happened so well, and I was confident with how I was looking after that prep. I mean, it's hard work. It's not like I just like walked on stage. I did all the work, and I did feel confident with how I was looking. So that part of it was not bad for me. And I mean, I attribute that 100% to all the work that I put in. Like I went right now, I'm like, haven't gone through a prep. I would not feel comfortable right now. But after going through the prep and doing everything that I was supposed to do, and I felt confident with how I looked, and that part of it, I was not. It was really that wasn't that bad for me.
Yeah, and I always just love to say, you know, just that confidence boost though that you too also get, walking on the stage is huge too, and just knowing that you accomplished something. And one of the very very sad things I think about bodybuilding though is that you're only on the stage for that short amount of time, and you work your butt off for months upon months to be on there for sometimes even like a minute for some people. I mean, it's just
Less than that.
that's yeah, that's one thing because I mean, yeah, it's and that's one of the things that I would probably change at least because I mean, it's like it's I think you need to be on there for more because if you're working your butt off for that much, but I mean, it just shows all of the hard work and drive and dedication that it takes. But now one of the fun questions. So as you can tell, I'm one of the palest people you'll ever meet in your entire life. Being from the upper
Right.
Midwest, I mean, I am, I either get farmer's tan, which let's face it is not a real tan, or I just get burnt to an absolute crisp. What is that feeling and what is that experience like for you when you get to put that tan on? Because we have so many people that come on and talk about, like how you see muscles that you never even thought that you had. Everything really seems to pop out. What is that feeling like for you when you get that tan on?
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely that's another confidence booster. I mean you get the show tan that you get like right before you get on stage. I mean, it's super dark, and you like you'll be like you check into your hotel, and you're like everyone you're looking at your body, and you're taking pictures, and you're sending pictures to your coach, and you're like, oh no, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to get my first coat of tan, and then you come back up to your room, and you're like, whoa, okay, now I'm ready. And yeah, it definitely is another big confidence booster.
Well, one of the things that I also like to say too, the one negative thing with that is that I mean, you basically have to become a statue when you have that stuff on. You can't really sit on anything. You can't really lean against everything. So yeah, I mean, like that just adds even more to like what these people have to go through to get on stage, and just that just is just so inspiring to me. But what you talked about, like with the posing, what is your favorite pose to do, and what is your least favorite pose to do?
um, probably. I mean, with bikini, I guess not everyone, but people are probably familiar with like the bikini back pose. Is in bikini like the main, I guess the main thing you're being judged on is your glutes and your hamstrings. So uh, that pose is always fun because you're like showing off your hard work, and that's like more the main thing that you're being judged on.
Well, and I always say too, I mean, that's the one pose though too, where you can kind of you don't have to be smiling. You can kind of let that
You
you don't
kind of
have to like
relax.
you don't have to like have your face just hurt all the time, and you can kind of
Exactly.
let your gut
You can
hang
kind of
out just a
relax,
tad.
breathe.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can breathe a little bit. Yeah, so that's one answer that we hear
Yeah.
all the time. But now one of the questions I mean that I love to ask every health and fitness guest that we have on the show is what is that feeling like for you when you finally get to step on stage and show off all that hard work that you've worked months upon months for? I mean, I know you're only on there for such a short amount of time, but what is that
Yeah.
feeling like for you?
No, I mean, it's exciting. You're looking at, you're kind of just like, this is it. Like, oh my God, like you said, I mean, you've worked so long and so many hours, and like, I mean, and people probably don't realize this, but like, it's pretty much the only thing for those like few months before the show. Like, it's on your mind, like probably almost 24 hours a day. Like even when you're asleep, like it's on your mind. Something about it is on your mind, like your food or your posing or your gym. What are you gonna do at the gym today? I mean, like you're thinking about it for like 2 months straight. So you walk up there and you're just like, this is it. And like for me, it's like kind of looking at the judges and like like, and I mean, to me, it always seemed like they were smiling, and it's just so that makes you feel good, and like the audience, and you hear people cheering for you, and it's just it's a way to show off your hard work.
Well, and yeah, and I always say too, I mean, it's like find that thing in your life that you enjoy like that. And I mean, just really go with it because we're on this earth for such a short amount of time that I mean, it's like find what you enjoy and just go with it. But now another fun question. What is your go-to post-show meal?
Oh, that is a good question. Um, you know what? I've done three shows, and I've had a. It's been different for each one, and I can't even pick which one was the best. But we did pizza after the first one. I did a burger and fries, which was like amazing. After the second one, and then after the third one, we went out and had like Tex-Mex, like enchiladas and chips and queso and margaritas, and they were all amazing. I don't even know which one would be my favorite.
Well, I always say for me, I mean, I would just go to like a Five Guys with like $1,000 and just be like, here, I'm renting you out for the night. Like, just make me
Right.
whatever I want until I either throw up or pass out. Like,
Exactly.
we're
That's
gonna
pretty
get
much.
this done. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do have to say I'm a huge sweets fan. Like that's actually my hardest part of like competing and prep is like staying away from the sweets. But after my most recent show, my friend and I that were on stage together, we so my husband made us brownies, a big pan of brownies. Brownies is another one of my weaknesses, and me and my friend stepped off the stage, went back to the hotel room, and we probably put down about almost the whole pan of brownies between the two of us.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely
It was bad actually, but it was really good.
I definitely can't blame you for that though, because I mean, I would probably do the same exact thing. But I mean, you compete in NGA bikini, and a lot of people, everyone knows NPC, but what is NGA and how is it different from NPC?
Okay, so in NGA, it was the first show that I did, and it was the only NGA show that I have done. But it stands for National Gym Association. It's actually a natural federation, so which natural means drug free slash tested. So anyone who's competing, you do a drug test when you check in. So there's no, you know,
Yep.
there's no testosterone. Nobody's on anything, um, which is nice because it evens the playing field, and it's nice. So that's what makes that's how it's different from the NPC. But I mean, it's a different federation. It's a lot smaller. It's a lot less well known. I guess people would say it's a lot less prestigious, but but that's what it is. It's one of the natural federations. And it was when I first started competing, I was living in Kentucky, in Lexington, Kentucky, and it was really big up there. And that's how I kind of got into it. A lot of the people in my gym were competing in that federation. So that was my first show, and I actually I won a pro card in my first that in that show. So I never, and the reason I always say pro qualified because I never actually competed as a pro in the NGA. Just that was just my choice. So I don't feel like saying like I am an NGA pro, but I did qualify and I did get my pro card in the NGA.
So you're one of those lucky ones that just did one show and they got their pro card. We have a couple of them on the show, but I always say like, because then I always talk to the people who are like, oh yeah, I did like 20 shows before I finally got my pro card,
Right.
and it's
I
like
mean, and it's
it's so different.
completely.
Yeah.
I don't want to sell it like it's completely different than getting your pro card in NPC. Like it's not even in the same realm. So I don't want to make it seem like that I got like, that it's equivalent to like an IFBB pro because that's a completely different league. But
It's still very impressive. Yeah, it's still awesome. But now, I mean, the most important question that I love to ask, all of the health and fitness guests, because it's another myth that I think is, I don't get why people think this, but there's so many of my friends, I'll give an example, that come up to me and they say, like, Ryan, I really love your podcast. I love listening to it. But one of the things I was most surprised of is that these people, when they go up on stage, that look is not sustainable. You're not going to be able to look that way 365 days out of the year. There's just so much misinformation where people believe that. And a lot of it is, like sometimes these Instagram people just post like their pictures of like when they're in shape or when they're, about
right,
to step on
credit.
stage. Yeah. And then they just save them and then they post them like throughout the year
Mhm.
then.
Yep.
But another thing too is just a lot of misinformation because so many people think that if you train that hard as the bodybuilders do, by the time you get in that stage shape, they think that it's just like people who do weight loss. Like you can stay at that weight loss if you've lost weight, if you're like very obese, like you can keep that. But it's one of those things where with your bodybuilding, you cannot look that way,
You
365
can.
days out of the year.
Right.
Was that a struggle for you sort of realizing that? And did you have any difficulty adjusting to that? Because a lot of people that we have on there they just don't understand, or they might understand, but it's still frustrating for them just to see that scale go up and up after their show with all that hard work that they put in. What has been your story with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I knew going into it that that look was not going to be sustainable. You know that because I mean, you're dieting so hard that it's not sustainable. And then, when your peak week before you get on stage, you're doing water manipulation. Some people are doing salt manipulation. So, I mean, that look that you get on stage, like you look like that for that day. And then, but even how you look like 2 weeks before, I mean, that's not sustainable either because you're depleted and you're not, you know, I always say the part about bodybuilding is not healthy is probably the last 2 weeks because or 2 or 3 weeks because you're just depleted. So yeah, and I know I knew that mentally, but definitely it's hard to see the weight come back on, and it's good. You need that. It's not healthy to stay at stage lean year round. It's not healthy. Your hormones get messed up. You're dieting so hard, it's not good. So you need the weight to come back on, but yes, mentally it is very hard. And you find myself looking back at my pictures from like, oh my god, last month I looked like that and now I look like this. And I mean, and then now looking back at like my 2 months post show pictures, and I'm like, where I thought that I looked huge, and then I look back, I'm like, oh, I was still like really lean. But you have to, and you're learning. And I mean, right now I'm probably 12 or so pounds over like my stage weight, and that's fine. Like I'm not super shredded or super lean, but I'm at a healthy weight for myself, and I have muscle, and I'm happy, and I have energy, and all that stuff is important. So it's been a learning process. Like it's hard to accept that sometimes that you're gonna not look like that, and it's okay.
Well, and I always say you're still in better shape than like 99% of the planet to anyone out there. And I always also say, man, it's just like starting a business. You got to spend money to make money. You got to put on weight if you want to put on muscle or put on size. I mean, that's one thing that I just think everyone just really needs to understand, at least when it comes to that aspect. But I mean, you're also a mom of three. How have you been able to juggle, and a physician? So how are you able to juggle all three of those lifestyles and just not go crazy from from all that stuff that you have to deal with? Is it just a
Right.
lot of time management? And do you have any tips out there for any moms that are thinking about getting into shape as to how they can manage that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as like, yeah, my kids are 4, 6, and 8. So like when I got into the bodybuilding, they were like 2, 4, and 6. So I mean, they're still pretty young, and yeah, I've always, like I said, I've always gone to the gym, so I've always made going to the gym a priority. Like I basically schedule it in my day. Like it's not like if I'm gonna go to the gym today or if I'm gonna have time. It's like what time am I like after work am I gonna go, or am I gonna go before? Are we gonna go in the evening? But like what time is the gym gonna happen? But it's always scheduled in my day, and I always have it planned out. So that's one tip is just to have it scheduled. That's part of your day. Like if you go to work, then that's like another part of your day. If you are a stay at home mom, like that's it. Like schedule it like a meeting that you're gonna have. Like that's part of your day. Um, the gym having the daycare, the childcare, like that's, I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it without that. And my kids like going. They have fun. It's not, they have friends there. We go often enough that like all the other regulars kids and they have friends there and they like going. So we have lately, our little routine is like I go to work from 7 to 3. I work 7 to 3. I'm an anesthesiologist. Um, I come home from work, we get the kids off the bus and kind of get everybody snacks and stuff. And then we usually, not always, but usually as a family, we'll go to the gym. And the kids will go in the little kid care and they have their fun. And then we work out. And that's just kind of like our system. Sometimes we have to manage kids' activities, girls doing dance and gymnastics. And luckily, everything's kind of not far away from each other. So, I mean, there's been days where like we'll either divide and conquer, or like one of us will like drop the girl off at dance and go to the gym, and then the other one will like go to the gym first and get the workout in and then go pick up the one from dance, and then the other two kids are in the gym daycare. So it's juggling, but like each day we start the day or the night before and we just figure out like how are we going to make it work. And the gym is like what is it's going to happen, so how are we going to work it into our day. And that's just kind of how we manage it.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's just, I mean, that time management skill is way more impressive than anything I could ever achieve. So that just, I mean, that just being so down, and it just proves, how much hard work really goes into it. But how important is it for you also? Because I've had, health and fitness experts come on and say that, one of the biggest things to dealing with the obesity crisis is that if you have healthy and fit parents, I mean, the kids are almost guaranteed to live a healthy and fit lifestyle. I mean, not guaranteed, I should say, but it's very, very more likely that they do, that they aren't, very obese, so that they follow healthy
Right.
habits. How important is it it for you too to instill that in your kids? I mean, not obviously not like forcing them to do stuff, but still just
Right.
showing them like it can be done, and like these are some ways how to do it. How important is that for you too to
Right.
have that be that positive example for your kids?
Oh, it's so important. Like I said at the beginning, like I was right. My parents have always been healthy and fit, and like they haven't been like bodybuilding or any kind of competitive athletes in any way, but they've always like had their thing. Like mom, like I said, my mom always did jazzercise. Like she would go 3 to 4 days a week, and she would make sure she went, and she loves it. And then my dad was always going to the gym and doing cycling or doing swimming or whatever he was doing. And so I mean, I was raised on it, and like so I guess that's one example. And like I mean, this is it's just part of my life, and it always has been. So absolutely, it's important for me to instill that in my kids, and not like you said, not even like forcing them, but just leading, like showing them by example. Like this is what we do. This is healthy lifestyle, and it makes you feel good, and it makes you look good, and makes you a healthy person. So yeah, I mean, it's one of the benefits that I mean I think is very important.
Well, and like I always say too, the guy said, I mean, it's like as long as you just like don't force them. I mean, they're naturally a lot of times they're really going to catch on, and that, and I mean that's just so important. I think for really just helping youngest generation out. But now, I mean, like you said, you're also an anesthesiologist. I mean, one of the things that I like to ask people that are in the medical field, or just the field that where you might deal with people that have been dealt a rough hand in life, or they might either be sick or they might just have something wrong with them. How important is that to you too? Just seeing all those people that might not be in the best of shape. How much does that add for your motivation? Just realizing that like, hey, I'm a healthy and strong individual, and this person may not have been been the luckiest person. How important is that to you too? Where you just realize like, hey, what do I have? What excuse do I have to like not work out and still stay in shape? Does that really help with you motivation wise?
Yeah, definitely. So being an anesthesiologist, I'm sure most people know that you put patients to sleep for surgery. A lot of people might not realize that like people who are overweight and unhealthy can have a lot more complications just going under a general anesthetic compared to like a very healthy person. People are obese, they have airway issues. You can obstruct your airway. They have high blood pressure, they have diabetes, they have heart issues, they have vascular issues. You're at a higher risk of stroke and heart attack and all those things. So, yeah, when I'm putting somebody to sleep who is not healthy or obese, which happens a lot, a lot of in Kentucky we have a lot of smokers, like heavy smokers. Not as much here in Texas, but and you see those complications, and you see how much harder they are to manage under anesthesia. You see how much more difficult it is for them to wake up from anesthesia. And yeah, it definitely kind of just reinforces for me like that I am what I'm doing is it's not just for like to look good. It's to be healthy and to feel good, and to have a good healthy life and being able to do things for my kids. And when I'm like 80 years old, I'll still be in decent shape and strong. And it's really important because yeah, you see the complications, and you see how being overweight or unhealthy can affect everything in life, someone's life.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I do have to say the one time I was ever put under was when I got my wisdom teeth removed. And I just wish that they made those drugs that they give you, those anesthesia. I just wish they would give you that stuff, or that stuff would be available for public consumption, because that was one of the weird. I mean, it was one of those things where I didn't even know where I was. And then my mom still has it videotaped. It was like 10 years ago where I got it taken out, and I was just confused as heck. But yeah,
Oh
it
yeah.
was, yeah, I always say that's funny. And that's some of my favorite videos to watch, are people that just get out of like surgery or whatever. And then they're just so loopy from all the drugs. But I mean, also, how did you get into anesthesiology, or was it something that you had always been interested in, or was it something that as you got older, you just realized like, hey, this is something that I really want to pursue? What was your experience like getting into the field?
So when I was in college, I started out college wanting to go to physical therapy school. So I always want my dad is a physician, so I was kind of always around the medical field, and it's always kind of been something that I've been around. And I just kind of like it was just kind of assumed like I was going to do something medical. Like I can't even think of a time where it wasn't. But I did start out wanting to do physical therapy, and I actually majored in kinesiology, exercise physiology in college. And so I mean, that kind of goes with everything. I've always just been into like the fit, healthy lifestyle. But and then about halfway through college, I decided I wanted to go to medical school instead. It was kind of like I think I'm just going to go to med school. So, and I had the grades and everything. So I applied and I got in. And but even when I started med school, I didn't. It wasn't like, oh, I want to be an anesthesiologist. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But after my first year of med school, I did a rotation in anesthesia with the department. I went to University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. So I did a
Boo! No, I always say the one thing that was gonna make me maybe not invite you to on this podcast is that you went to Texas, and I am a huge Nebraska football fan. So then
oh,
when I
that's
saw that, I was like, okay, this is the
you're
one thing
like
wrong with this person where I don't know. But yeah, now that they're not in the same conference anymore, now I
that's
can
right.
invite
It's
you on.
okay.
Yeah, that's what I was
So
gonna say. Yeah, but
yeah. So anyways, but yeah. So I did the rotation in anesthesia. It was the summer after my first year of med school, and I just really liked it. I liked being in the OR operating room. I liked you do some procedures, you do line placements. I liked being able to like you give a drug and then you see what happens, and it's very hands on. And I liked working with surgeons and working with the OR team and things like that. So once I did that, I was like, I really like this, but you don't really kind of decide what you want to do until about third year. So a couple of years went by, and it was still like I really like anesthesia, and so that's kind of where we went with it.
and that's awesome. I mean, I think you might be you're actually like the first anesthesiologist that we've had on the show. So that is
Uh,
great. But two of my
yeah.
favorite questions that I like to ask, all of our healthy and fit guests. So for the first one, I mean, for me when I started, going to the gym and getting bigger and stronger, there are so many positive things, but the one negative thing for me is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean, I'm still at home with my parents for the next couple of months before I move out in the summertime. And every time they come home with groceries, I basically have to lift the car into the driveway. Has that been a similar experience with you where people just take one look at you and then just assume that you can do favors for them?
I don't know. It's actually funny that you said that because okay, so I'm only 5 feet tall, so like my hands are small compared to like somebody who's six. What do you say you are 6? So, anyways, but so I'm always asking my husband to open jars for me because, and I say it's because my hands are small, but he's like, you're a bodybuilder, shouldn't you be able to open the jar on your own? And I'm like, oh no, I can't open the jar. My hands are small. I don't know. So anyway, so that's funny, but I don't know. I mean, I try to I feel like when I'm at work, like I'm in scrubs and it's hard to tell like what I look like underneath the scrubs, although a lot of people kind of know. But I don't know. I don't feel like I get like asked that too much. So,
I
but
always say for me, like I said, it's a double-edged sword being 6'3" because you're gonna get asked even if you don't. Even if I was the skinniest person alive, they'd still say, "Oh, tall guy can do it, tall guy." So yeah, it's one thing that I really personally really had to get used to. But I mean, I took it in stride because it realizes you kind of recognize that people really are recognizing that you do work out. But
absolutely.
all the times last summer, every other weekend, hey Ryan, you want to come help me move some furniture? I'm moving out of my parents' house. And I even told him I was like, well, first of all, I don't want to, but I'll do it. But like, I'm not gonna like skip over to your house with a smile on my face. Like,
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
come. And yeah, so yeah, it's one of those things. But now my favorite question that I love to ask, and again, this is a multi-million-dollar idea for anyone out there interested. But when it comes to clothes for fit women, I mean, I always love to say fit guys have their own problems. See, we get that all the time. The lie. I mean, it's one of the biggest things that people struggle with. But because I always say, like, if you have big broad shoulders, dresses aren't your best friend. Jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time. Where I mean, if you have a big lower body and a small waist, jeans are not built for that. What have been some ways that you've been able to compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be limited?
That's so true. I wear gym clothes all the time. No, I mean honestly, and my husband makes fun of me because I pretty much do. Like I said, I wear scrubs at work. So scrubs are scrubs, and they're not flattering, but you find the ones that fit and they fit, and it is what it is. But so basically, I wear scrubs at work. I come home and I change into gym clothes, and I go to the gym, and I basically stay in my gym clothes until like it's time to go to bed, shower, and go to bed. But like if I were going like to actually somewhere where I can't wear gym clothes or scrubs, yeah, I mean I wear a lot of leggings, like LuLaRoe leggings, um, that I get that are not gym leggings. They're like pants leggings, but people would argue that leggings are pants, but I don't argue it. So I wear a lot of leggings. I do have a few jeans that fit right, but yeah, and then like finding shirts that like are flattering on my body, it is very hard because yeah, I mean I have these big shoulders and I'm only like I said I'm only 5 feet tall, so I think taller girls maybe it might be a little bit easier to find clothes for upper body, but yeah, like I mean, you get like an extra small shirt, but then it doesn't fit. But then you get like a medium shirt, and then it's like too big, and then it's just yeah, it's very hard.
That's why you got to go cut off and just let the guns breathe, because it's like, honestly, that's what we hear of all the time. Because yeah, I mean, anyone out there who's thinking of a way to do it, I mean, I couldn't recommend
Oh
more.
yeah,
That I
that'll
mean,
be
it's like
out with
I have yeah,
$multi-million.
it's like I have
Yeah,
so many people that I've had on the show that would be willing to buy them. So it's like you already have a base. You would make a ton of
exactly. We're
money.
ready.
So
We're ready to
get on.
buy 'em.
I mean, I had two fashion designers on the podcast, but none of them No, I told them they're my suggestion, but they haven't come out with anything so I'm gonna have to, let them know that it's like,
Yeah, you
again,
follow up.
yeah, absolutely. But now we go to our audience favorite, my personal favorite part of the podcast, a little questionnaire. We're gonna ask Stacie here about a dozen or so health and fitness questions and personal questions. It's sort of like a getting to know you. We're gonna find out maybe a little bit more about her. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
At the moment, so I'm a Texas girl. I like country music. And I know a lot of people are like, you work out the country music, but I don't know. It just gets me going. We just saw Luke Combs at the rodeo, the Houston rodeo the other night. And I'm like on a Luke Combs, like total kick right now. So I'll just put Luke Combs radio on my Pandora and like, I'm good to go.
Okay, so this isn't a question I ask on the questionnaire, but I gotta ask because the one time that I really just felt embarrassed on this podcast was that I asked a girl from the South if she'd ever had any experience in high heels for when she was walking on the stage, because bikini girls have to be in heels because a lot of the girls from the North, they don't wear that. And then I finally realized, like, oh yeah, she's from the South. They're basically born in high heels. So then that's the one time I realized I was like, okay, yeah. So I don't need to ask that question. But yeah, that's just a funny thing that I like to say is that, like, that's the one time where I was like, oh, why did I ask that? That's completely stupid because it's just like I was born in high. Yeah, so I was like, oh, I was like, okay, yeah, I get that. But now, I mean, well, actually, I gotta say for me personally, so don't hate me, but I'm from Minnesota, and there's still a lot of country that's played there, but I do not. I mean, a few country songs I'll like, but I mean, for me, I gotta go like with the old school, like '80s pop music, just the
Right.
cheesy '80s music, like the Rocky Four soundtrack I have on my playlist. But I have a problem. So like I have a gym at home, which is nice. It's not like a gym. It's just like a bunch of equipment and then like a Smith machine and stuff like that. But so when I work out like 75% of the time at home. So when I go to a normal gym, I'm one of those guys where I got to wait for the beat to drop. So if I'm doing like a lat pull down, I've had times where I'm like this for like 30 seconds and I've had people come up to me and be like, hey, are you all right? Did you like pull out your back? And I'm like, nope, just waiting for the beat to drop. So I
That's
am
great.
known throughout my gym as the guy that waits for the beat to drop. But I handle that with pride because I mean, that adrenaline rush that you get from the beat
There you go. Yeah,
really,
you need
really,
it.
really, really
Exactly.
helps you. Yeah. But now for our second question, the questionnaire: out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train with any celebrity, who would it be?
Oh my God. Man, I don't know. Train. I don't know. I Kate Upton.
Hmm.
Um, I don't like follow her a lot, but I know like I remember reading like a year or two ago that she, you know, supermodel, but I guess more lately she's been like really like doing more of like the weightlifting thing and like putting on some muscle and stuff. And I mean that would be awesome. That would be fun to like do a workout with her.
I have not heard about that, so I'm definitely gonna have to look it up. But yeah, I was a huge Kate
Yeah.
Upton fan back. I mean, and I was the perfect demographic. I was like a teenage boy during Kate
Right.
Upton's. So yeah, yeah. That goes without saying. But for me, I mean, I'd probably have to be just like Arnold, just because it's Arnold, and the
Right.
fact that I'd love to hear him yell at me in his Austrian accent would be very, very funny to me actually. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. Whoa, that's a hard question. Train any. Well, I mean, I got to go back to my country music guys, and I don't know. I'm lately, like I said, I'm right now like totally on a Luke Combs kick. So, and he probably could use a little training. So I think I'll.
She's calling you out, Luke Combs. If you hear this, she's calling you out right now. So go get in
No,
contact with
he's
her.
awesome.
Yeah, oh,
He's
yeah,
awesome. So
yeah,
that would be fun. That would
yeah.
be a good time.
That would be awesome too. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Oh, well, there's a few of them, but I would say chicken.
Mhm.
I'm boring. I mean, that I need to have in my fridge chicken.
Yeah. We get that all the time. It's either chicken or eggs, but the most surprising answer, the answer that shocked me beyond belief, is mustard. I mean, I never would have guessed that. I mean, a lot of these bodybuilders, because mustard has 0 calories, 0 fat, they just put
Yeah.
it on, they dice it on whatever they got just to give it a little bit of
Right.
flavor. And I always say, if you have to do that, I mean, you might want to reevaluate your life if you have to do that just to give stuff a little bit of flavor. But I mean,
Right.
yeah, mustard, yeah, that's one answer that really, really shocked me. But out of all of your followers that you have on Instagram, what would be one thing that you think they would be surprised to find out about you if they met you in person?
Um, Probably that I'm like obsessed with sweets.
Yep. What is your
Like,
what is your
yeah,
favorite sweet?
I would say either brownie. Well, I don't know, brownies or cake. Like, they would be surprised to find out that I have no control around brownies and cake. Like, you put a cake, like even just like a grocery store like birthday cake with buttercream icing. Like, you put that in front of me, and I'll be like, oh, I'll just have a little piece, and then I'll keep coming back for little pieces.
Mhm.
Like, I will lose control, and I will sometimes not be able to stop until it's gone, or in case I'll have to like put it like I'll tell my husband to either hide it from me or I'll put it like up high where it's like really hard for me to like it's like a struggle to get to it because like there's times like I'll just lose control. and that's me. I love sweets. I mean,
For me, it's like cupcakes and milkshakes are the two for me. Where I mean, if I get anywhere near, I mean, I just had one last night because I have a physical job too, being a supervisor. Like I help out a lot, so I'm constantly moving. So every Friday, that's when I go to McDonald's and just get a large chocolate shake, and that's my cheat. That's my cheat for the week. And also being the winter, I can allow myself to have that. But yeah, it's so yeah, that's that. Those are my two things. But now, if you were given like the all-knowing power, if someone were to walk up to you and say, like Stacie, if you could change anything about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would follow along with it, like we'll all go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd want to see change about the sport of bodybuilding?
um, honestly, probably that it would be natural. Like
Hmm.
the, I mean, I get when when you think bodybuilding, most people think NPC. So
Yeah.
it's not natural, and I mean, it's not an even playing field, and it's like you. So I mean, yeah, if it could just turn into like everybody's natural and that's what you do. I don't have and like I don't want to think I don't have anything against people who use performance enhancing drugs. I mean, it's not for me. I'm not going to do it, but I don't have anything against people who do at all. So I don't want that to come across. But I do think that bodybuilding, I think it would be more of a fair sport, I guess, if like you said, if that was just like the new rule and like that's what you do and that's kind of how it is. I think that would make it better, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand that, but and I also say, like if you want to go on it or not, I mean, you still have to put in the hard work, and it still takes a lot of
Oh,
time.
absolutely.
But
It
it's like
doesn't.
I wish too that they would just do kind of like what they did with the NGA, where it would just be natural, and then just where everyone knew that everyone was on stuff. Because I'm gonna be honest, like out of the people that I have on, I mean, more than half I'd say are definitely on stuff. But I mean, it's like
Right.
it's something that happens in the sport, and I mean, it's really a big part of the sport. So
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, it absolutely is. And
yeah,
like I said, I don't have anything against
hmm,
people who use it. And I mean,
yeah,
it's totally fine. And
yeah.
it is, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And it is, like you said, a big part of bodybuilding.
Like
So
the one thing that I do wish though is that people would be more upfront about it, because I've had like probably like 3 or 4 women at least and a couple of guys come on and they just say it out front, like I didn't even ask them or I didn't even do anything, and they're just like, yeah, I just got on, and I was like, well, thank you for at least coming out and saying that, because I mean
right.
it's like at least people know then. So yeah, I mean, and that's definitely a thing that I would like to change too. But now we go to the fun part of the questionnaire. So now, what was the last TV show that you binge watched?
So I never watch TV except for when I'm doing cardio. I watch my Netflix. So right now I'm watching Jane the Virgin on
Oh yeah.
Netflix. So that's cute. So I guess that would be like the last one because that's pretty much that's what I'm on right now. So it's cute show. But yeah, that's pretty much the only time I don't watch TV at home at all. I just don't I don't have the
I
time.
was I was gonna say a lot of these people don't have the time, but now everyone has one. What is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Oh, probably Dirty Dancing. Gotta be like this. I know, so
Yeah.
typical.
No, no. I just say that because like I'm as straight as a line, but if there's any guy, it would be Patrick Swayze. Like he was a good look. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, he was a
Yeah,
good. All of his movies I do enjoy. I mean, especially now like the Dirty Dancing and the Ghost. Like Ghost was on last night, and I watched it for like 5 minutes. But yeah, like it's out. Those movies I'm okay with, but like his like Roadhouse and stuff like that. That's where I'll stop whatever I'm
oh
doing
yeah.
and I'll watch it. But for me, again, all my guy friends, close your ears. But The Princess Bride is my guilty pleasure movie.
That's
I
great.
mean, I
Yeah.
will never admit that in person, but it's one of those movies where if it comes on, I drop what I'm doing immediately
You're
and
gonna
and I
watch it.
go ahead and watch it. But now, two of the questions that I love to ask as we near the end of the questionnaire part. So now, for the first one, what is one misconception that you think the general public has about female bodybuilding?
Um, there's probably a few of them, but I think that probably the women who are doing bodybuilding either want like I guess I feel like the general public thinks both ways. Like they want to look like a man, and they want that's like their goal is like to look like this man, or and especially like bikini competitors probably get this the most that they are showing off their body in a sexual manner. In trying to like go in that way when I mean, okay, maybe some are, but I mean, for the most part, for the most part,
A
it's not.
low percentage
It's
are,
a
I'd say. A
sport,
very low percentage are, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a sport and it's an athletic competition, and it takes a lot of athletic work to get there, and it's not just like a stripper competition. And I think that some people when they see bikini competitors that's what they
I
think.
would say honestly, if I could put a number on it, it would be like 10% probably that do that, and then everyone
Yeah,
else, all
maybe not even.
the other 90%, yeah, it's just it's they just do it just because it's all the hard work, and I mean that's one thing that I mean if anyone watches any of my podcasts, I think we've proven on here just from all of the guests that I've had on. But now my favorite question to ask out of, any question, I always say that for a couple questions, but this actually is my favorite because I came up with this, about 50 podcasts back and I've been using it ever since. Now, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
Good question. Um, I probably that I wish I would have learned about weight training and gotten into it at an earlier age. I mean, I was 37 when I started. I'm 40. I'm 40 now. So
I was
I was
gonna, I,
37 when I started.
I was gonna
So
have her say that at the very end, just so people's jaws would drop and be like, "What? She's that old?" Yeah, but yeah, so
yeah,
that's another
yeah,
thing that.
I'm 40. So yeah, so I mean, 18-year-old me was. I mean, I was a typical 18-year-old. But I did like through college. I still went to the gym every day, even in college. Like, I mean, I ate like crap. I mean, I ate my pizza every night and my whatever, and I drank, like college kids do. But I did after my classes almost every day. I went to the gym. But like I said back then, I didn't know anything about weight training or weightlifting or anything like that. And so sometimes I look at some of like the 22-year-old, 23-year-olds who are bodybuilders and who like bikini competitors and bigger competitors, and I'm like, man, maybe if I would have learned about it and gone into it like at that young of an age, it would be different. But I don't know. I mean, it just
Yeah.
I took on running and that was my thing. But I think it would have been good to learn about and to learn how to about changing your physique by lifting weights and bodybuilding and
I mean, and I would tell myself something similar. I'd say, start this podcast now because I wouldn't have waited until I was 23 to do this. It's
right.
like, imagine where it'd be at now. But yeah, I totally understand that. But now our final two questions before we wrap things up. So, if we were to talk to you a year from now, where would you like to be at in, I mean, your bodybuilding career, in your regular life? Are you getting ready, or are you going to compete at all this year? Are you sort of just building up, or what is your current process like? And like before, like if we were to talk to you a year from now, where would you like to be at?
Okay, so and I hadn't mentioned this. We've been talking about bikini competing a lot, and I actually decided after my show last year that if when and if I compete again, it's going to be in figure. Like we had talked about, like my upper body just wanted to grow, and I was always kind of like people would tell me I was borderline for bikini versus figure. So if I compete again, it's going to be figure. It's not going to be this year. I just needed after last year. I just felt like I was not going through prep. I was not a good enough mom, and I was just not. Um, I just I needed like to take a year off of from like prep and bodybuilding and just like. And that doesn't mean, and sometimes I say that, and people assume maybe that means like I'm not working out, or I mean, I'm still working out like 6 days a week, and I'm still lifting heavy, and I just, I'm not mentally ready to do like a prep for bodybuilding competition. So, it won't be this year, probably next year, and I do hope to do like a local figure show. That would be my goal, and I will probably, I don't know for sure, but most likely I may do one of the natural federations. I don't know which one. I haven't even looked into that yet, but
Yeah.
I think that would be my goal is 2020 to get on stage as a figure competitor. And this year I'm just gonna, you know, be a mom and lift weights and get strong and be healthy and just kind of like enjoy. We have vacations and just enjoy like being. I say normal, but I guess I'm probably not normal compared to like the majority of the population, but normal as in like not in prep
Yeah.
for competition.
Oh yeah, and absolutely. And now for our last question, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
um, my daughters. Well, I guess my husband, Michael Bass, and I guess all my friends that are support me, and there's like too many though, like specifically name, but all my friends that support me and that have my back, and because there's enough negativity, I guess, surrounding everything. So the ones that are there for me and support me, and the real gold right there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, again, you guys, we cannot thank Stacie enough for coming on the podcast. I mean, I really appreciate having you on. You're a great guest. Everyone go and follow her on Instagram. I'll leave the link down below. And if you, I mean, just looking at some of her photos, you're going to be inspired, stop eating those Twinkies, get off the couch and start getting in shape. But again, you guys, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.